Hello and welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. It's been a while. The international game break is going on. We haven't had any Premier League action, but I have with me as usual my co-host Abrar Aziz, and we decided let's discuss the Premier League a bit now that we have time and before game week 9. So, Abrar, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. There's been a quiet week in terms of just no sport, no real sport at all. So it was a slightly boring
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah. I mean, like no Premier League going on. Of course, there's the internationals, a
Yeah,
few
of course.
good
Yeah,
games
yeah,
here and there,
yeah.
but we always miss the Premier League.
That's
Uh,
always fun about Premier League.
Yeah, man. So I just wanted to let's just like discuss the season so far and like what we think the outcomes will be and like how this season has been. It's been a very different season. We've
Yeah,
seen Liverpool champions get thrashed 7-2. We've seen United get thrashed 6-1.
yeah,
We've seen Arsenal lose to Villa. Like a lot of upsets are happening. A lot of players down to injuries. A lot of COVID issues as well. Just recently, Mohamed Salah got tested for positive for COVID-19.
yeah,
Even I think you just told me Al Neni as well.
yeah.
So like there's been a lot going on. Your initial thoughts, just like with the season so far, what surprised you and what's the biggest taking for you in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that it's just been so significantly open. I expected it to be a little bit of an open Premier League because of the situation that it comes, and there was no real preseason. There was a lot of issues in terms of like injuries and COVID situations and all that, and we are starting to see all of that. And no one expected Liverpool to really struggle as much as they have been. City has really not gotten out of second gear. Some teams like Aston Villa have really stepped up on the gas and started performed very very well. I think they had 5 wins out of 7 games, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 5 wins and 2 losses. So they've been performing well. Leicester usually is now pretty much up there and thereabouts. They're on top of the table. Sheffield United is shockingly at rock bottom at 20th,
Mm.
which I was not expecting at all. I think that's the biggest surprise for me personally. And the likes of United, Arsenal also struggling, no doubt about that. Wolves is struggling a little bit. Everton started off very strongly, but the last 2-3 games have not gone in their favor at all. So it's just been such an open season. It's going to be it just sets it up for a lot of like a roller coaster ride. I'm guessing no real favorites yet, no real challengers yet, no one's going to run away with it because like last time we kind of had Liverpool by December pretty much sorted winners, right? It was just a matter of finishing it off, and then COVID hit, and it took them a lot longer to get their trophy. But it's not going to be like that this season at all. It's already everyone's lost a game or more than that. So it's going to be it's been a roller coaster, and it's just the beginning, and we have about 30 more game weeks left, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to continue like this because, like you mentioned, injuries, and that's probably happening because of we have a Champions League and Europa League game every week. Normally, there's a
Yeah,
break in
yeah,
between. There's non-stop, and the teams are traveling. It's not like they're playing in a bubble in one place, so they're
right.
traveling from one city to the other. So that will cause more injuries, right? Like and it'll continue to do so. It's not like it's going to change if the fixture list is like this congested.
Absolutely, Aubameyang had a problem with his I believe bus or train, and he was stuck in the airport for a few hours. So these kind of issues are going to
Yeah.
happen,
And then you have
and
an
it's
international break. For us, it's a break like if
yeah,
for covering the Premier League, but the players are still playing. They're still they're
absolutely,
playing for their countries. Some of the countries are far, man. Suppose,
yeah,
especially the South American teams and stuff.
yeah.
So it's not easy on the players, especially
No, no,
this season.
absolutely. It's gonna be very hard in terms of that kind of travel. And plus, you're seeing a bunch of people starting to get COVID because it's starting to spread like wildfire again. Unfortunately, because weather's starting to change, it's starting to get colder. COVID's coming back in dominance. You see Salah, you see Mane had it. We saw
Yeah,
Ellis have it. I'm
yeah,
hearing news about El Neni. There's some notable names over there that are
yeah.
getting
And
that are
Liverpool have been impacted a lot with
yeah.
injuries and COVID.
Yeah, exactly, and a lot of injuries for them. They've really pretty much don't have a backline. Unfortunately, with Gomez also gone, the only
Yeah.
guy they have is Matip. They don't even Trent is out. Only Matip and Robertson are left for them, unfortunately. So it's just going to be so crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable the kind of impact that Liverpool has had with injuries and COVID. They got two of their players, and this COVID, it's kind of unfortunately for the next at least couple of months till we figure out the vaccine situation and everything. It's gonna stick around, and more and more people are gonna get it,
Hmm.
and then it's gonna mean that 2 to 3 game weeks out. That kind of takes the wind out of you. So you kind of have to be careful with that as well.
Do you
So
see a
it's going to be
possibility of a
interesting.
bubble, or is just impossible with the European games as well on the side? Like playing in a like a NBA type or a cricket type bio bubble. Or is
Um,
it impossible because of the number of teams?
I don't think it's possible if they have the European games because they have to travel. Otherwise, they want to cancel Champions League Europa completely and just focus on the Premier League. That's possible. I don't think they're going to do it. There's too much money and too much TV
Hmm.
involved for them to do that. I think they've already struggled with it. You saw like when they locked it down for 2-3 months, they had to open it back up. So. I mean, they finished the season, they finished the Champions League, they finished the Europa, they finished everything, right? So
Hmm.
it's just a matter of continuing. Unfortunately, some of the people are going to get the teams are going to get affected by it. They're just going to have to figure a way out.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's exactly how it's going to be.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, some really good points there. And if you just look at the table, like you mentioned, the bottom three, Sheffield, like you said, the most surprising for you. West Brom, Burnley. I mean, West Brom are newly promoted, so like we expected them to be lurking around that area.
Yeah.
Burnley as well. Like I mean, they're a Premier League team for the last few years, but they haven't performed to their expectations. But
Yeah.
if you look at the flip side, top four, if I know definitely your answer is no. But if I asked you, it's been 2 months now. If I told you after 2 months of the Premier League, this will be the top four. Leicester on the top, second Tottenham, third Liverpool, fourth Southampton. Would you have expected that?
I mean, honestly, absolutely not. There's no way I would have expected this.
Yeah,
Like, I
because
mean,
I'll tell
uh,
you, you would say Arsenal number one, and then
no,
you
I
you'll
wouldn't.
take it from there.
I wouldn't.
Arteta on the
Honestly, I
wheel.
wouldn't. I would have said Liverpool. I would have said City. Liverpool and City are not even there. I would have definitely not said Southampton. Honestly, I wouldn't have said Leicester and Tottenham too. Honestly, only Liverpool is the team that I expected. I expected City and Liverpool and maybe Chelsea around the fourth spot because they've made some good signings. And I probably have put Everton around there because I was expecting big things from them as well. And then probably Arsenal around the fifth, sixth spot, trying to challenge for those top fours. That's what I would have expected. I did not see Southampton to be a top four. I did not expect Aston Villa to be at six. Very honestly, did not expect Tottenham to be in the top two. I did not expect them. I was expecting them around the fifth, sixth place as well, kind of like challenging for top four.
The
Maybe a
greatest team in
point
North
below.
London.
No, Arsenal is that, but maybe a point below the greatest team in North London was what I was expecting from them. But they've performed well. They've really turned it around after a poor game week one where they struggled. I think that United thrashing kind of just got them going, and they've been good since then. Their attacking line is pretty good. But I think for Tottenham it's going to be very important. The next few game weeks they play Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. I think in the next 3 to 4 game weeks. So this is going to be the real litmus test for them. If they can come out of this with some points, then they're surely they're top for contenders. If they kind of taper off in the next few game weeks, then we know that they'll have a hard time kind of fighting top four.
Yeah, and how important is it for them to have someone like Gareth Bale? Because we saw when Harry Kane gets injured or Son gets injured, Tottenham do struggle. They do have issues. So
Yeah,
and if they want to go for the league, they need to have good squad depth because you can't control injuries, you can't control COVID. So
right.
how somebody like a Bale, they've invested even in Dorothy as well as a left
Yeah.
back. So how much will this help them going forward? And do you see them as title contenders?
Uh, I see them as top four contenders for sure. I
Okay.
absolutely see them as top four contenders. As much as I hate to say it, I hate that team with a passion. But I mean, they have been performing well, and I think that they have invested in the right spots. I think they have some cover for important positions that they play with, especially with Bale coming in for like he can also start and he can also cover for Son and Kane in case something like that happens. And we saw last season they completely tapered off as soon as Kane got injured towards the end of that season. So it's really been something that they've been struggling with. So I think that this is going to be an important year for them. I think that they will challenge for top four. But I mean, it is Tottenham. It's in their name, man. They kind of somehow kind of fizzle out at some point. So the only thing that they have going for them is they have a solid manager in Mourinho. I think that he's past his prime, but he's still not the worst
Props to him
manager out there.
for continuing, coming back, and
Oh yeah, absolutely,
he's
absolutely.
had some
Yeah,
poor seasons recently,
yeah,
but he's coming back, and now they do look like a decent threat. But like you said, I
yeah,
think when they do have injuries, when they do have big games, it'll be interesting to see how they go.
absolutely.
But even like if you look at it like overall, like Leicester as well, like the Vardy was injured for a bit. As soon as he came on, like they started winning games as well.
Yeah.
But overall. realistically, who do you think will make top four? It's very difficult to decide right now because
Yeah.
anything can happen. The likes of Villa, Everton, these guys are still also in the ballgame. Southampton. So if you just like from based on the last 2 months and like history as well, who do you think will be your top four for this season? If you just look at it from now, it will change obviously as the
Yeah.
tournament.
It's going to be very, very hard to make this prediction, but I'm going to go with this prediction, right? I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I still think that Liverpool will win the league. I think that they will just about nick it, just by like a point or like by goal difference or something of the sort. So I think they'll finish first. I think City will pick up. I think they'll finish second. I think that these two teams have the big guns in the bank, and I think that it's just a matter of kind of settling down once they figure out like the issues that come with this game week. And it's already been 8 or 9 weeks, so now I think it's time for them to high time for them to start up. If we have this in another 10 weeks, and if they're kind of in a similar situation like they are right now, I think that's going to be a big problem. But I think Liverpool, City, Leicester, and Chelsea, I think these four will make the
You're
top
going
four.
with Leicester.
I think that
Do,
they're
do you
pretty good
remember
and
who
they're good
replaced
enough.
Leicester last year in the last season in the
Yeah,
top
well,
four?
that team is struggling significantly. Unfortunately, that big team in Manchester, the red half of Manchester is struggling hard. I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult for them. And unfortunately, even Arsenal. I mean, these two teams. I expected bigger things from them starting off the season, but both of them have struggled. The point difference, honestly, is not that much.
Yeah, but in a season like this, do you give them a chance? Because I
Yes,
agree with you.
absolutely,
United have
absolutely.
started poorly, but they started worse. I think in the last season, they still made top
Yeah,
four. I'm not
yeah,
saying anything. I'm not saying they're going to make it top four,
yeah,
but because of the season so far, you have the likes of Villa beating Liverpool by such a big margin. In that
right.
kind of season, maybe
Yep,
a team like Arsenal or like a United, they go on a run,
yeah.
maybe like a 5-6 game win run. They can easily come into that top four going into the second half of the season.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. I just feel like based off of what we've seen over the past couple of
Mm.
months is my judgment. So that's why it's a big surprise that I haven't put Arsenal in as well. But in my heart, I want them to have a good run and
But
then
you know
kind
that,
of just like,
but
but
that's
it's just
why
based off
that
of the couple
yeah, that's why I
months.
respect you so much. You know that there's a better team in North London who deserve the top four spot.
I didn't
So,
put them in
oh,
the
you
top
didn't
four
put
too.
that one. Okay, you didn't put that.
As
You went
much as I
Leicester.
love,
You
yeah, I
went
went
Leicester,
Leicester,
Liverpool, City, and
Chelsea.
Chelsea, yeah, and actually, I wanted to speak about Chelsea as well. I mean, there's a lot of teams to talk about. I think we briefly mentioned United, so
Yeah,
inconsistent.
yeah.
One day losing to Tottenham, and one day beating PSG. Very inconsistent. Like it's very hard to dissect what's going on in Manchester United because right now you can just describe them as unpredictables, right? If
Yeah,
you agree
yeah,
with me, I think that
absolutely.
with Arsenal, I feel like they've lost a few too many games than they would have liked, but there is a structure there. There is some solidity there, but they need to be more.
Creativity.
Yeah, they need to be more creative, especially against lower teams, because you shouldn't be losing to the likes of Leicester and Aston Villa just because of the players that Arsenal have bought and
Yeah,
the manager that they have. I think the manager is really good as well, but
yeah.
I think he will get criticized if they continue to
Oh
lose to
yeah,
teams like
absolutely. And
this. Yeah,
the criticism has already started, unfortunately.
yeah,
I mean, I keep saying this all the time. I feel like the FA Cup win kind of papered up some cracks that were there. We knew that this was going to be an issue. I
yeah,
do see that it's very important that the defensive structure is in this team. This is a big step forward already.
yeah,
Of course, there is that need to kind of move that defense into attack, and things will slowly improve. There is unfortunately a lack of creative, out and out creative players in our team. Ceballos and Partey are decent players, but I think they're not out and out attacking creative attacking midfielders, and that is what we're missing. Someone like an Ozil, unfortunately, but there's a lot that we can be discussed. It's not footballing reasons only. I keep saying this,
yeah.
but whatever it is, unfortunately, he's not able to
And
play
that's
for this
causing
team,
the issue, the
and
lack of
that's
creativity.
yeah. So there are some options available on the bench. Some youngsters, Emil Smith Rowe is one of them who probably could kind of take that role, and maybe we're gonna have to see how that works out. And I'm pretty sure he has what it takes to make this work. We have to give him some time, and that's why I think that this season, I think we might just unfortunately maybe get close, but we might unfortunately based on current form, might, because of the creative
Mm,
lack of creativity, I think we might have a problem making that top four.
mhm.
Coming to United, unpredictable, man. I mean, unpredictable 101. I mean, this is the exact. If anyone wants to explain to any youngsters about what unpredictable is, you just have to show them how they lose to Tottenham with 6-1, and then they go and beat PSG right off the board. I mean, and a couple other games as well. Leipzig as well, they beat, and then they lost to Arsenal, and then they kind of. had a pretty bad game against some Istanbul team. I can't even remember the name. So it's just so inconsistent. It's
Yeah,
just so
that's where the
unbelievably
frustration
inconsistent.
lies as a
Of
United
course,
fan,
absolutely.
because you're beating PSG convincingly. It wasn't a lucky win; it was a convincing
Yeah,
win. And
yeah,
then you lose to Arsenal. Okay, fine.
yeah,
You had
yeah,
a tough fixture list. They played Chelsea, PSG, Leipzig, and then Arsenal. I think that's a tough fixture list. It's okay, you lost to Arsenal, but then you're going to lose to Istanbul. So I think
yeah.
that's where the frustration lies. But at the end of the day, as a fan, it is entertaining. It is frustrating, but your emotions go high and low.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not saying I'm loving it, but it's fun. Like it's not. You can't. There is a lot of things that need to be improved, but yeah, but you can't really blame it only on the manager. But yes, the manager should take the blame for a few things. But also, I think the board also needs to
No,
take a few things.
and
But
even the players need to step up. I
and the
mean,
players
yes,
need
the
to
players
step
need to
up,
step up.
and
Yeah,
the players also need to be blamed, because we've seen that when Solskjaer's job is on the line, the players step up and they win the game.
yeah,
If they lost the Everton game, the sack was coming,
yeah,
but now it's not. They pushed that forward, so they need to be more consistent. If they can do that on a day in day out basis, that's the thing. Like, I don't know how they're going to
yeah.
do it. It's very difficult to explain, but I think you hit it nail on the head. Very unpredictable team.
Yep.
Only time will tell how it'll unfold. I don't know
I
what's
think
going to
so.
happen.
I mean, it's just one of those teams, and it's just been one of those years when unpredictability can probably be your friend, and you can never really write them off. Like you said, last season they started
Yeah,
off very very slowly, and they just had
yeah,
a nice little run, and they made that top four, which is good for them. But
yeah,
it just remains to be seen. I mean, the fixture lists and stuff like that. The more important games are going to come in December. There's going to be a
yeah,
game almost every 2-3 days. So like the injuries and stuff like that. I think
yeah,
December will be a big telling factor in almost all the teams as to kind of who comes out on top over there. Probably will continue to go on
yeah.
and
Yeah.
make that top four. I think that's probably
Definitely.
what it's
And
going
if
to
you
be.
just look at the Premier League solo, if you just look at that, don't look at the Europe. I don't, as a United fan, you wouldn't be happy because you're 14th place.
Yeah,
You struggle to win games. So I think you haven't won games consistently. So it will be they will need to put their foot down and improve. Otherwise, it'll be a gloomy season for sure. If you
right.
and yeah, I agree with you there. But if you just look at Chelsea, they're stepping up now, man. The chemistry,
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
gelling. You said it'll take time. It did take time. It wasn't like
yeah,
it happened straight away. But now it's clicking, man. And
yeah.
the likes of Warner coming scoring goals. Havertz, I think he was tested positive.
Tested. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
so he couldn't play, but he was looking good just before that. And
Right.
Ziyech, man, he looks a baller. It looks right now. He looks
Yeah.
like the signing of the season. Unbelievable.
I've been like Zoe also. I mean, we're missing Zoe today, but I think
Shout
he's
out to
been mentioning
Zoe Khan. Yeah.
he's been mentioning about Ziyech for a while, and I've always agreed on one of the few things I agree with Zoe on, that Ziyech is an absolute baller. He actually just invigorated that team. I think since the past couple of game weeks they've started to look really good, and with Pulisic coming and doing somewhat similar on the left flank as well. They have some amazing players. Ziyech and Pulisic kind of trying to go through that left and right wing. That's going to be amazing. With kind of Werner starting to find the form behind the net as well, and Havertz kind of providing. I think that team is starting to look really really good. They still have defensive frailties. I think that they can be beat on the counter, and that's what teams are going to start trying to do more and more against them. So there's going to be, every time Chelsea plays, I think it's going to be a goal fest. I think there are going to be a lot of goals that they'll score, but there will be a few that they give as well. I think this season is going to be a matter of kind of trying to outscore your opponents, and then try and work on the defensive structure and move forward to try actually being title challengers in next season. I think that's what.
Yeah, I mean it's a fair point, but like you said, like the other teams are also struggling with that.
Right.
We expected City to be in the top four right now. I
Yep.
think both of us
Yeah.
expected that, to be
Right.
honest with you. But they're in 10th. They're like a couple of places, one place above Arsenal, I think.
Yeah. I think they're
Uh,
11th and Arsenal
yeah,
10th.
so we're expecting them to come
And
and
10th.
win, but we're expecting. But right now, there's just a few games from missing out on a title challenge. Maybe not top four, but like a
Yeah.
title.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Absolutely.
speaking very early, but
Absolutely.
like
No, I think so.
another few games, like by the end of this year, like by the end of December, you'll have a good idea if they will challenge for the title or not. And I feel
Yeah.
if they lose a couple more games this month, they're gonna struggle. And to be honest with you, this is how I feel. You might feel differently. I think right now Chelsea look like better title challengers than City going into.
I've always been mentioning that it might take Chelsea a few games to get settled in. They have
Which was true.
and but they have done a little bit faster than I expected them to.
Okay.
I thought that they'll start getting their feet. They'll really start showing what they've showed in the past game or 2 weeks. I thought they'd expect that at least in around December, but they've stepped it up a little bit. They've come up a month early. I'd like to see how they perform against some of the bigger teams. I think that they, if I'm not wrong, they haven't played the likes of Arsenal and City and Liverpool yet. If I'm not wrong, maybe they just played Liverpool only.
They
I think
played
I'm not sure.
Liverpool, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they still have
They
to play
lost that
Arsenal and
game.
City. They
Yeah.
play Arsenal, City, and I think United, Tottenham. I
That
think
will
they
be
have to
the
play these games.
yeah. They
So
played
that'll be the
United,
litmus
but they
test.
drew. Yeah, but
They
yeah,
drew to
this
United, correct?
yeah.
Yeah,
There will
so
be some tough games where they'll.
some big games because those are the kind of teams, especially kind of City and the kind of form that unfortunately Tottenham is in, that those are the kind of teams that can break you on the counter, and that's going to be an interesting, because I know that even still they have those defensive frailties, and for them to be title challengers, they have to fix that quickly. I don't think that they'll fix that this year because they don't have the players to do so, unfortunately. They have some decent players, but I think that they're going to still struggle defensively. Chelsea is a solid team, no doubt about that. They're looking very, very good, but I think that a top four is all they'll make this season.
For all the make. Okay, yeah, no, I mean some very valid points, and like we both could be right, wrong. It does, because this
Yeah,
season is
your top four?
my top my top four: Tottenham to win the league.
Of course.
Tottenham to win the league. Number two, Chelsea. I honestly feel Chelsea are favorites right now, just from what I've seen so far. I couldn't be
Sure,
completely
absolutely.
wrong, but
Yeah.
I think Chelsea are favorites. I'm just going with Tottenham because of bias, and I feel just because of a bit of bias, I like I feel that
Yeah,
they
and
need to win it.
I'm in the podcast, so you're going to tell me that, of course.
Yeah, a bit to mess around with you as well, and I just feel if Mourinho wants to prove anything, this is the time to prove.
And he's a second season wonder,
Second
man.
season wonder.
That's all that
But it's going to be
matters.
very, very difficult. I feel it'll be a bit easier relatively for Chelsea, because I think, yes, they have defensive issues, but they have a squad there. They have someone
Yeah.
like Thiago Silva,
Yeah.
who is experienced in the
Yeah.
back line.
Of
They
course.
have some high quality players in Warner, Havertz, and Ziyech. They have bench strength. They have Barkley. They have Abraham. So I feel it'll be a bit easier. Chilwell is looking really good as well.
He's actually starting to look really good at the
Yeah, he's
most
looking
part,
solid.
yeah.
So I think it'll be easier for Chelsea to not to win the title, but like relatively to push for that spot. I'm just going Spurs like that. Chelsea. Then I'll go Liverpool, and I want to say United. But I think it'll be
Realistic.
because I picked Spurs and Chelsea. Then I'll have to go City, because it's difficult to just because of the squad depth that you mentioned. But at the same time, City need to start clicking, man. Otherwise, it's going to be
Yeah.
you don't want to go too far ahead.
It just feels like they haven't gotten out of second gear yet.
Yeah, if they do get out of that gear and they have the potential. So that's why
Yeah,
you can't at this stage say that they're not going to make top four. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think I can say that. I would love to see United there, but yeah, this is the top four, but I can be completely wrong. So
Yeah.
sorry,
I think that's this will be an interesting season. I think
Liverpool, the only thing is there's not like, yes, they're United's rivals and everything, but I'm just going on Liverpool based on their injuries, man. Like they have a really
so
good squad.
unfortunate, yeah.
If they had a full squad, I think they are favorites to win this, because especially with the likes of Thiago Silva, not Thiago Silva, sorry, Thiago Alcantara, him and Jota. I think unbelievable signings, and Jota's proven it already. And Thiago's a baller as well, so I think they've made really good signings, and they look like favorites. But I'm just going based on injuries and everything, and
There's
that
a lot
could
of those, yeah.
I could be completely wrong. Like in February we could be sitting here and saying that, oh man, Kane's injured, and the likes of Werner is injured and stuff, and now Liverpool have their full team, so that can change. But I'm just going based on current
Situation, yeah.
situation.
And I think we've covered some of the top teams, but shout out to Aston Villa. They've been performing well.
Aston Villa.
So you credit due where it's kind of they've beaten the likes of Liverpool. They've beaten the likes of Arsenal. They've looked really, really good as well. I just think that it's not a model that will sustain through the season. I just still think, but I think that a top.
I mean, just sitting here all season.
Yeah,
no, sorry to cut you, but I just because you said Aston Villa, I just have to tell you that I've been sitting here and saying, man, why didn't we sign Jack Grealish, man? Like this guy is
such a baller, man, an absolute baller.
Yeah.
But
sorry,
I think that team is set up very well. I think they've built it very well. They know the players know what they need, what is expected of them. But then finish in the top half of the table will be a very good achievement for Aston Villa. I think that they should be looking for maybe that try to push for that top 7, top 7, top 8 kind of spot. Maybe look for Europa next season. That's kind of what their target will be. I think that they're not sustain. I don't think they have enough depth, and I don't think they have enough talent to unfortunately challenge for this top 4, because we saw a couple of games when they lost pretty badly as well. So I think they'll have a few more of those games, and then that's why they'll taper off. But I think a top half would be a decent outcome for them for this season.
Yeah, and this got some big fishes, man. Arsenal and Liverpool, some big wins there. But yeah, no, definitely credit to them. But like you said, it will be tough. But so far, they've done a really good job. They punched above their weight for sure. Yeah. If I just ask you, if you can tell me quickly, I mean, there's two different types of questions I'll ask you. Okay, I'll go with one first. The new signing, which has impressed you the most, and who has not impressed you the most, like two opposites. Ziyech has impressed you the most. New signing, not Thomas Party at the Emirates.
He's quite amazing. He hasn't got enough time to kind of prove his worth. I think in a few weeks we will be talking about that. And I have to be realistic in these podcasts.
But Ziyech, no, I'll never kick you out. Ziyech hasn't played either. Like, to be honest,
but like in a couple games that he has, I think he's really caught my eye, and I've actually been
that's what I'm saying. So I agree with you. I'm not saying that, but I'm just talking about your excuse you're giving about Party doesn't really apply because Ziyech is also.
I think Arsenal needs a very different kind of players, right? He's an attacker more, and this guy's a midfielder more, so he needs to get into
I'll give you that.
more.
I'll give you that, and the player
and Jota as well. I think Jota also is a very close second. I think he's been really good. Just trying to think of the player that is not surprised. I think
like who a flop, not a flop signing, but who hasn't lived up to the expectations. Just to
I think a little bit of unfortunately though. I think Thiago Silva. I think I thought he'd be really a dominating presence in that Chelsea backline, but I think he struggled a little bit to kind of get used to the pace. I think he'll change quickly because I think
he's getting used to it.
Yeah, I think he's a smart player, and I think so far, unfortunately, with the lack of trying to think of a better person, I can't think of someone who's really flopped.
I'll tell you, I have one.
Who?
I have one. Apart from one game, Willian.
Oh yeah, actually that is true.
Apart from that, he gave three assists in one game. I'll give you that. But apart from that,
the first game of the season,
bro, you're sitting Pepe on the bench for him, man.
I think he's been pretty bad as well. That's absolutely fair.
Chelsea fans will be upset with you today. But yeah, no, fair enough. Your call, like, I mean,
but I did mention
you did mention Ziyech. Yeah,
but no, I think Willian's a fair shout as well. I think he's really been poor. He hasn't really gotten into any games that he started. It's been one of those things, one of those kind of signings that has been below par per se. And one we know our friends Ryan, he kind of mentioned about Willian. I kept saying after the first game I texted him, I was like, hey, thank you for Willian, and he's like, I want to see what you feel at the end of the season. And unfortunately he said that this is kind of guy, he'll show you up one game and he'll suddenly disappear 5 games. That's kind of exactly what's happened. So unfortunate, but it is what it is, I guess. So
yeah, no, I would probably go I think Ziyech has impressed me a lot. Like, I think he's unbelievable signing. I would like take him in my team any day of the week. But I just go with Jota just because of his consistency, I think, so far. And he's filled in some big shoes, like, and he's proven that, like, he can play in this big team. Like, coming from like a team like Wolves and to Liverpool, he stepped up, and a lot of expectations. And, he's delivered, I think. So I just, for now, go Jota, but I think that'll, like, if Ziyech continues to play like this, that can change for sure. And for me, Willian, man, I'm sorry to say that.
Fair enough. No, I think that's a fair shout out. Absolutely.
I would say Harry Maguire as well, but like, to be honest, he's not a new signing. And to be honest, we're talking about new signings, and from United, Telles hasn't had that many games. And Cavani scored a goal, so like,
and with due respect to Maguire as well, I think after a really shocking start, I think the past two he's been okay. He hasn't
a few bad games, but like, he's not worth the 80 million price tag, but you can't say he's been like flop so far. But yes,
for sure. Yeah, 3 teams to make the drop.
3 teams to make the drop. So I think it'll be West Brom. West Brom for sure. I don't know, man. Sheffield, it looks like they're going to drop, but no, I just feel like they'll have something in them. West Brom, I'll go Fulham. And the third team, Who's the no not Leeds? So I'll
Burnley,
go.
Burnley.
Yeah, I'd go Burnley.
I think I kind of agree with that as well.
Yeah, I mean Leeds has impressed me as well a lot, but recently they've lost a few games. But I still think
Yeah.
they'll step up.
Yeah, I think 15th, not very far. I mean, they have 10 points at 15th, and
Yeah.
it's. I feel like with the way the current scheme of things are going, I think it's going to be between Brighton, Fulham, West Brom, Burnley, and Sheffield. But I agree with you. I think Sheffield is going to turn a new leaf. I think they'll kind of come out and figure out some of their form from last season, and I think they'll survive the drop. They might not do very well, but I think they'll survive the drop. I think it's going to be Fulham, West Brom, and Burnley as well. I think.
Fulham, West Brom, and Burnley. I'm going
Yeah.
the same. And just lastly, striker, midfielder, defender, and goalkeeper who has impressed you the most this season on the spot. But I can give you some options if you wanna one.
Emi Martinez, he's my boy. He's been pretty
Yeah.
good for Aston Villa. Defender. Let's see. Who's there?
You want me to go?
Let me go. Yeah, it's defender. Let me think. But I think for striker, I know there's two names that come up: Patrick Bamford and Calvert-Lewin. I think both of them have really impressed me quite a lot. In the midfield, midfield and defenders, give me some options. Let me think, guys. It's kind of you put me on the spot here, and it's trying.
So in the midfield, you have Son, you have Ziyech. You have you have Bruno if you want. You have Kevin De Bruyne. You have
Kevin De Bruyne has been pretty good, but he's missed a few games through injury, but I think he's been pretty damn good. And
Jack Grealish.
Oh yeah, we have to go with Grealish. I think you have to go with Grealish and De Bruyne. I think they've been amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah, for sure.
And for defenders, I'll just tell you mine just to make it easy for you. Yeah. Defender, I'll go Tariq Lamptey. I think
I kind of Tariq Lamptey came in my head. I was just trying to think of any central defender that's really
Gabriel. Maybe.
Gabriel, I know Gabriel.
But then he conceded 3 against Aston Villa.
Yeah, but I think him personally, I think he was very good.
He's decent, yeah.
Overall, he's been pretty good. I think there were a couple of things that he could have done better in that game as well. But I kind of had Lamptey and Gabriel in my head, but I just felt like I was trying to think of if there was anyone else. But I think these two are the guys, and off the top of my head, these two probably guys who kind of come through. But Tariq Lamptey, man, what a player, what a baller.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think goalkeeper, I can't disagree with you. I'll go Martinez. Although I think Alisson has stepped up in Van.
Absolutely.
Van Dijk hasn't been there centre back, and there's a lot of pressure on him. I think he's stepped up. So Alisson is between Alisson and So I'll go with that, and then in defense I'll go Tariq Lamptey. Like I said, midfield I think it's very difficult between Son and Grealish. I think they've both been really good. But I'll just go with Son. I think he's linked up really well with Harry Kane.
Yeah, he's got a few goals and
he's got quite a few goals and few assists. So from that perspective, striker, I really want to go Harry Kane. I think he's the best striker in the league. But I'll go with something a bit different. Jamie Vardy. I just feel like this guy is just proving season in and out what a high quality player he is. At this age, the movement he has, the finishing ability, the spaces he gets into, and the players are coming and going from his team. It doesn't matter when he's there. People just take that Arsenal game as an example. He came off the bench and won them the game. What more do you want? The impact he's having for a team like Leicester is unbelievable. Yes, I think Bamford, I cannot disagree with you. Calvert-Lewin, I cannot disagree with you. But I'm just going Vardy, just looking
I think that's a fair shot.
Yeah, and he's won games. He's given in the last game as well. He gave a couple of assists as well and scored a goal. So yes, he missed a penalty, but yes, I think Vardy has been, for me, he's been the striker to look out for.
I think that's a fair shot. I think he's been pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think we pretty much summed up. Any last thoughts?
No, I just think I haven't said anything about any good things about Arsenal, so I think Arsenal win the league.
Stick to it. If you say it, I'll if you stick to it, that's good. I'll give you a gift, man. At the end, if they do win the league.
Well, I won't not take your gift if they do win. I just don't see it realistically happening, unfortunately, this season at least.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's difficult to say right now. I can't say there's no way they're not going to win the league.
Yeah.
But I agree with your sentiments that it's going to be tough for them and United. So we'll keep it at there.
Between 5th and 11th, there's only 3 points. So it's not such a very
so that's the thing. It's not like let's wait in January and see. Even in January, it'll change. Next week, it'll change. It can change any time. Because of the injuries and the COVID, everything was happening. So this league will keep fluctuating. This is we just what we've seen, based on what we've seen, we're giving our predictions, but we can be completely wrong, like
Right.
with how the season's going. But I think thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully we'll have Zoe back for the predictions this week for game week 9, so I'll catch you then for that. It'll be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. Right now Zoe has overtaken you, so make sure you
Ah,
sit down and get those predictions, start planning those predictions, and catch you for the podcast, man. Thank you so much for
yep.
joining me today.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Bye.
Yep.